So, car stories on PCTV. I've been doing it for many years. It's a good advertising tool for the business. Plus, I enjoy doing it. I enjoy sharing the shop and the different things that you should know about your car with people. If you need a place to highlight your business, call Gus at PCTV and check it out. It's a good way to inform people about your business. You'll get new customers from it, and you can share your knowledge of your particular trade. Hi, I'm Mike Yanessa. Welcome to another Car Stories here on PCTV. We're in the middle of winter, it's cold out, but you got to start thinking of your classics because before you know it, you're going to need them. So get them serviced, get them ready. If you stop by the shop, most of the time in the showroom I have cars for sale. But this car is one that I did back in the summertime, 67 Camaro, very special car. Customer bought it, it was a barn find, you'd say. It was in a garage for 5 years, pretty much like the way you see it. Had a little scrape on the right front fender, and the paint wasn't all that great. It had some dirt and some orange peel in it. Gas gauge didn't work, that type of thing. So he brought it in this summer, and I touched up the right front fender for him, and I sanded and polished it. Now, if you watch some other episodes, I talked about sanding and polish, where you use 1,000 grit, 2,000 grit, 3,000 grit sandpaper, and then use a coarse compound, a medium compound. So I spent a couple days buffing this car, but the results were phenomenal. I mean, look at it. It's bright, it's shiny, it looks like water, you know, really, really nice shine to it. The guy was so happy, and then I, of course, being the Camaro guy that I am, I deciphered the car and figured out that this is a rare car. He didn't know exactly what it was. We all know it's a rally sport because it has the hideaway headlights. We all know it's a 67 because of the wing windows. And Camaros are the most complicated cars as far as options that I know of. And a lot of the early Chevrolets, you could do things that you can't do today. And what I mean by that, everybody's probably wondering what's so rare about this car. This is what they refer to in the Camaro world as an L30 M20. So L30 means 275 horsepower, 327. M20 is the Muncie transmission that you've heard of before, M20, M21, M22. So this is a 275 horse, 4-barrel, 327 with a Muncie transmission, a 12-bolt posi rear, a traction bar, and the suspension of a Super Sport. So if you ordered a Super Sport in 67, that was a performance package, remember? Rally Sport is a pretty package. So you could have a Rally Sport 6-cylinder, but a Super Sport, you could only have a 350 or a 396. And I remember years ago, these cars had surfaced and people were in denial that this was a real car. But now they figured out what had happened on the firewall, and I'll show you then, on the firewall VIN plate is 4P. That, for all purposes, in 1967 means Super Sport, small block. Well, this is not a Super Sport, it's not a 350, but it's a numbers matching factory car. It never was on an order sheet, just like my L78 Chevelle that we talked about. It was never a checklist on the order sheet. But say for some reason, remember the 350 was new in 1967. So let's just say that a gentleman walked in and said, I want a new Camaro, I don't want a Super Sport, but I want a 327 instead of the 350 because I don't know how good. I know a 327 is a good motor. So they said, yeah, sure, and they built it for him. So it wasn't, like I said, it wasn't on an order sheet that a salesman could have checked off. It was almost a special order. And there's a handful of these cars around, and like I said, the name is the L30 M20. So let's take a closer look at it, and I'll show you some numbers and some things I'm talking about. Now, this being a rare car, it's very nicely done, but some of the things are not original, as you can see. The alternator bracket, the air cleaner, the firewall actually is supposed to be black and it's painted maroon. But it is the original motor, original cylinder heads, transmission, rear. I believe that the intake manifold has been replaced. It's been a while since I deciphered it, but I did go through the car. There's a couple things that aren't exactly original, but the heart of it, the motor and the still has the reverse light switch on the transmission. So it's a very nice original car as far as the major components. But the nice thing about 67 cars, Chevrolets in general, all the options and information is right here on the VIN tag on the firewall. In 68, like a 68, 69, Z28 or Super Sport, it's very hard to prove if it's real. But this car is easy to prove because right there, 4P stands for Super Sport Small Block, 1967. And again, it's not a 350, it's not a 396, but it's a numbers matching motor. So it's the odd or rare option. All these codes here, 07B, second week of July. R means the car was built in Norwood, Ohio, and that was a code for the assembly line. Nor, right there, Norwood, Ohio, that's the body number. 67, this means it's a 12637, means it's a sport coupe, not a convertible. If it had a sedan, there'd be a different code, but Camaros only came in coupe or convertible. 730Z is the deluxe interior. FF, which I believe, by memory, is green. So the color isn't original in this car. And then all this W2LGR, that means console, gauges, different options that the car has. So very informative if you decipher that. But again, I remember years ago people arguing about that they never had a 327 Super Sport. Well, the mystery was solved. I'm going to say maybe 10 years ago that they got documentation and figured out that these were a special ordered car with Super Sport equipment. Very, very, very nice car. He bought it right, and he put very little into it, and it's just a nice driving car. Like I said, it's not done, numbers correct, perfect, but that doesn't matter. You know, it's just a pretty car. He enjoys driving it, and I'm glad he brought it here for the show today. So anyway, what a special Camaro this is. Let's just go over some of the options. If you know, the rear mount antenna was an option. Has the deluxe interior with the white stripe and the decorative door panels. Has tilt wheel, console, gauges, tack, the Rally Sport package, which is the hideaway headlights, and the parking lights, reverse lights underneath the back tail lights. Just a well-optioned car. No power steering, no power brakes. So there you have it. One of the rarest Camaros you'll ever see, a 67 L30 M20. So the Eastwood Company, right here in Pottstown on Shoemaker Road, behind the Walmart. They have everything that you need to restore your car, powder coating, metalworking tools, a lot of really innovative tools for unique problems. So check out Eastwood. They're right here in our backyard. They're known across the country in the restoration field. At Carlisle, Hershey, you'll find them all over, but we're lucky enough to have them right here in town. So don't forget, check out Eastwood. Check out their website. Throughout the summer, they have cars and coffee, they have car shows, they have flea markets. Really good business right here in town. Eastwood Company, Shoemaker Road. Now this one was on December's show. This is the beautiful, original, unrestored 69 442 W30. And yes, this one is for sale. You wouldn't believe the people that came in for the Camaro thinking it was for sale when it was here just for display and for this TV show. But we have some other inventory coming in, so stay tuned. Check us out. Spring is coming. You're going to need something to cruise in. and we have a couple old cars on the works right now of coming in. So if you know anybody looking for a beautiful 442, 400 W30 4-speed, unrestored, send them to Wheels in Motion at 525 East High Street, Pottstown, PA. Hey, did you ever see one of these before? On last month's show, I told you a little bit about my brother and his local band, and I'm still hoping that somebody has some music somewhere recorded by the Soul Brothers, the Fowl Brothers. And our new theme song on Car Stories is my brother's record. So this is a record. It's a 45 record given out by Chevrolet, and it's Paul Revere and the Raiders, and the name of the song is the Chevy Crickle Camaro, which I don't know what that means, but maybe one of our viewers do. But it's a promotional record given out by Chevrolet dealers. A viewer and a well-known local Pottstown historian, Bill Kraus, came in. There is, who is that? Our older viewers know, and our younger viewers are like, who? That is Bonanza. And it also is a paper record. What does this have to do with cars or car stories? Well, the brand new 1964 Chevrolet was advertised on the back because Chevrolet was the major sponsor of the 60s cowboy show. I think it was one of the longest westerns running on television, Bonanza. And I'm sure they have 62, 63, 64, 65, but this is a real 1964 Impala Bonanza paper record. So thanks, Bill, for giving me this and sharing it with everybody. You might have some of this stuff laying around the house. Kaiser Chevrolet, Camaro memorabilia, hubcaps. I'm into all that. If I don't want to buy it, I know many people that are looking for certain items. So if you want to see something laying in the garage or downstairs, give me a call and let me know what you have. We might be interested here at Wheels in Motion. So back in those days of the 442s and the Camaros, mechanics' life was a lot simpler than today. Today's cars, as I've talked before, in the past few years, have just gotten so complicated. Tonight, we're going to talk about a couple of the things that we deal with. The future, if you wanted to tell your kids or tell your grandsons, because, by the way, the labor industry each year, I mean, construction, housing, plumbers, auto repairs, lose a lot of people that are retiring. And unfortunately, the younger generation is not following in the hands-on type thing. So there's a shortage of welders, mechanics, construction people. So if you've got a young person out there that shows mechanical ability, the future would be, the future for collision repairs is the modules and the computers that control all these fancy things in our new cars, like park assist and lane assurance and automatic braking. This is a whole article on, if you're a mechanic today, young, and you want to train, you should be thinking about training yourself on the electronic portion of the automobile today. Like a lot of front cars have shutters on them now that shut the radiator. It makes gas mileage, and it makes the temperature of the engine run at a more consistent temperature. So they need to be fixed. And a lot of times when cars are in a small impact, that's why they're so expensive to fix, because of all the little components and stuff that are hidden under the bumper. So that's one. Another big problem today with cars is EVAP. Check engine light comes on. These are new parts that they make to help some of these issues persistent. Like I know some of the Nissans and some different models have problems with the EVAP. And the way we check that is we actually put a machine over the gas cap and fill the system up with smoke. And if there's any minute leaks anywhere, it will smoke out, and you'll see the smallest leak. So another item I want to talk about is variable cam timing. Now this is a camshaft. This is from an old small block Chevrolet. Camshafts today are basically the same. There's lumps in them, okay? And One lump is the intake valve, one lump is the exhaust valve. They rotate, they go up, they open the valve. Well, here, let me show you. I have a picture here. It's a pretty cool picture in Mitchell magazine, or Mitchell manuals, that'll explain it. This just happens to be a 68 Oldsmobile engine, but camshafts today, we have roller cams and we have overhead cams, but basically it's a cam. There's a picture of it inside the motor. There's the time and chaining gears, okay? And that is the crankshaft, and it correlates the timing of the opening and closing the valves. For example, if you rotate the camshaft and move it, you'll change the power band. Very important in drag racing. A lot of times we'll put a cam in, okay? There's a pin on here, so you line that pin up with the keyway on the crankshaft. That's it, you're done. But they found if you turn the camshaft just a few degrees in either direction, you'll get more low end or you'll get more top end. So if I was building a race motor, this gets bolted to the crankshaft, and you can see right on there, it explains it. Exhaust open, exhaust closed. There's your degrees. So if you want to back the camshaft up 5 degrees, that could give you the more low end horsepower that you need because your car's heavy. If you put it in a dragster, you don't need low-end horsepower. You want to move the cam the other way. That will give you more horsepower up top. And you have to find that balance in between. These are the things that Jenkins and Carroll Shelby and different people were doing in the 60s and drag racing national record holders because they knew about this stuff way before anybody else. So nowadays, what they do in the motors of a new car, they have an electronic device that's controlled. See it? Picture with the gear. And it's called variable cam timing. So the computer is constantly adjusting the camshaft for maximum performance. If you're going up a hill, hey, we're cranking this thing up. If we're cruising down the turnpike, we're cranking it back. And that equals gas mileage. My 2017 truck has variable cam timing. The old days, that little 283, 327 like in that Camaro, you could run low on oil, you could overheat it, and the thing would probably start right up again. Nowadays, this sensor is driven by oil pressure. So we've had numerous cars come in here that have a ticking noise or a knocking noise because they were low on oil. And you're depriving the variable cam tensioner of oil. So if that happens, guess what? You need one. Sometimes they can be costly. Sometimes you can do permanent engine damage. So we do get from time to time people that are on a budget that maybe don't have the money or didn't get their check yet or whatever. You can't skimp on oil changes. You can't. And you can't use cheap oil. You have to use the oil recommended for your car. I say this over and over. A normal synthetic oil change at most places are $60, $70, but people will fall for the $29.95 oil change. That's not the proper oil for your car, and it's not the old days anymore. The technology in these motors needs frequent oil changes and the proper oil. So we do see a lot of this, and I have to make you aware that when you buy these new cars, stay on the maintenance schedule. Believe me, it will cost you more by not getting that $65 oil change. So cars have come a long way, and like I said earlier, technicians are dropping out of the business and retiring. We need the young people to take up the trade. So let's get some young people interested. We actually have a VOTEC student starting next week. I'm hoping the best. I hope that he has the mechanical ability and the bodywork ability that someday he could wind up being a top-notch A-Tech. So that's about it for that. Now let's move on to another subject here on Car Stories. So how about this big red Chevy truck here? Cody's buffing it up as we speak. As everybody knows, we do detailing here on Wheels in Motion. Our appointments do need to be made in advance, but we will do them for you. This truck had a bad case of acid rain, so he's using the latest orbital buffer, and he's went over the truck. I think he's on his last coat now. He had to cut it to get the acid rain off, and now he's applying some wax. So really a pretty truck. We did the lift kit, we did the tires when the guy bought it new, and it's back for service. So one of the projects I've had on the show is this 69 Z28 that I'm restoring for my good friend Bill Clemens. One of my last restorations that I'm going to do. We just don't do them as much as we used to anymore. But this is going to be a correct car, meaning that every little detail is going to try to be reproduced just like the factory. If you see these pieces in here, this is called burnished brown. It's a very rare color. It's a beautiful color. But remember, in 1969, it was lacquer. Lacquer didn't shine out of the gun. You had to rub it. Today's base coat, clear coat is what I'm using on this car. So I put flattener in the clear. And you can see it just doesn't have that depth. That's what we want on the inside of the trunk, the inside of the door jambs, the hinges, so the cracks of the car. Trying to duplicate lacquer, and it does. It looks real. Of course, when I do the outside of the car, I'll do base coat, clear coat, and make it real shiny because, you know, lacquer was very shiny when you rubbed it, but these weren't rubbed. So that's one of my challenges sometimes, is trying to match the color exactly to 1969, which today, we actually took a road trip to an original car. That's a 69 Nova down in Limerick, belonging to Dave Nelson, a customer. And we went down there and matched the color, and we're satisfied. It looks real good. Of course, it's going to be a little shinier than the old lacquer because of the base coat, clear coat, but it's going to be beautiful. This burnished brown with white stripes, 69 Z28, four-wheel disc brakes, one of 206 with the disc brakes. The color, I don't know the number, but very low production. So just wanted to share that with you, that sometimes behind the scenes it's just not picking up the gun and painting it. If I would have painted this base coat, clear coat, it would have not looked real. It would have looked too shiny. So the doors and the trunk lid that you saw in the booth, they'll get bolted onto here. But before that, I color the door jambs, paint the cowl, cut in the car, all the edges, then assemble the car, and then the rest of it gets lightly sanded and back in the booth again for the final brown and white stripes. But it's coming along good, real good. So another project I do, I haven't been working on much, but I just started, is my 68 Cadillac. And these are the seat backs. They were in bad condition. And I have a young fellow, his name is Chris. He does vinyl repair. He repaired them. He actually epoxies them and duplicates the grain, and then he sprays them with a protective film, and then he gives them to me, and I dye them. Dye is not what you think it is, like when you dye a t-shirt. Dye is basically paint with a flex agent in it. So it has elastrometric product in it that just makes paint flexible. So this color was specially matched to the 68 Cadillac. Now, it would be easy to go off the cowl and look at the code for the interior, which is dark red, but it's not going to match today's leather. So what I did is I matched the new leather that was on the seats, and we mixed this up, and you basically just spray it on like paint. So the cracks are repaired, and you can see it's flat, but as soon as you rub it, it'll turn shiny. So it's all you got to do is just go over this lightly with some cleaner, and it'll bring up a nice satin finish. If you want it shiny, you can arm roll it or juice it up. But just something that we do, and a lot of shops do, when you hear that word dye, like I'm dyeing the dash pad, I'm dyeing the kick panels, the door panels, the seat backs, so everything will match. There is a process to the vinyl to make it adhere, but after that, you're basically just painting flexible paint onto the surface. So the seats are done. These are the backs for the front seats. We're working on the front end of the car when we can in between. But fortunately, we've been busy with collision work and service work this winter here at Wheels in Motion. So that's about all for tonight's show. I hope everybody enjoyed it. If you have any questions, comments, or if you have any music, make sure you get in touch with me, Mike Yanessa, at Wheels in Motion, 525 East High Street in Pottstown. And a shout out to PCTV. They're back up and running. They're in their new location. And Can't wait for a booming 2020. So, Car Stories on PCTV. I've been doing it for many years. It's a good advertising tool for the business. Plus, I enjoy doing it. I enjoy sharing the shop and the different things that you should know about your car with people. If you need a place to highlight your business, call Gus at PCTV and check it out. It's a good way to inform people about your business. You'll get new customers from it, and you can share your knowledge of your particular trade.